This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this.
Hi, I'm the Enigma, and you're listening to the X-Cast.
Welcome to the X-Cast. The truth isn't here. I'm your host, Sarah Blair, and this is our wrap-up final podcast from Schaumburg, Illinois at X-Fest. Guys, how are we feeling? Are we happy, sad? We're happy that it happened. Sad that it's going to be over, right?
Yeah, I'll definitely be sad by this evening, I think. But it's been a lot of fun.
Right?
Yeah.
We've got Carl here, we've got Cathy G, and Maura Jaeger. JJ Lendl is with us. Hey, JJ.
Hi.
Welcome to the cast.
Thank you.
Welcome back, I should say, right?
Yeah, this is my second or third at this point.
Yeah.
And Marlene Stemme.
Hey, Sarah.
So,
good morning.
Okay. I'm around.
And Kurt. Kurt's lurking behind me. I forgot he was there for a second.
Kurt, get out of here.
Yeah, right? So, I guess we're not Alfred Fellig. We can't really turn back time or anything on those, even though I'm sure we wish we could. But so, guys, let's just kind of go over our day yesterday and sort of share our experiences with everyone. Cortland and I woke up quite early. We were up about 3:30 in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep. Very early.
Around noon.
Yeah, so it was 3:30 a.m. We woke up and started tweeting. We had an interesting conversation
Did you
about
sleep at all?
pamphlets. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I haven't slept very much this weekend, but I'm feeling surprisingly good. But it was a nice treat to wake to an inquiry about my clothing from you. So thank you for that.
We learned a lot more about capri pants than I think we needed to know.
Knickerbockers?
Knickerbockers.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's
Culottes.
Yeah.
I think if Cortland was here, she could give us the exact definition.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with pant length as well as the tightness of the fittedness. Yes.
Suitability for twerking.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wikipedia, if you're interested. But and then we got started. Carl and I did a couple of quickie interviews with.
Yeah, well, we spoke to JJ.
Yep.
We spoke to Emily, who plays Scully in the play we all saw the other night. We spoke to Jim and Kelly. Well, that was me and Marlene, actually.
We spoke to the X-Files Preservation
Yeah.
collection. That was really interesting.
Yeah, well, just a quick word, because we were about to run into the Mark Snow panel. And we just talked to Cortland quickly about the shirt she made, didn't we?
Yep.
So what we're going to do, we're going to tag those onto the end of this episode, I think. Is that
That's
the plan?
right. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll get to hear those. And tell us a little bit about the X-Files Preservation.
Well,
that was really cool.
There's so much stuff there. I need to go back, I think. I don't know if other people feel the same way.
I went back a couple of times yesterday.
Yeah.
JJ.
Yeah, I got to pop in once. It's amazing that all that stuff is together. But I can't remember the name of the guy who.
Jim.
Is it Jim? Yeah, right, Jim. And so Jim, he pulled me aside. He's like, "I need to show you something, dude." And he bends down and he pulls up his pant leg. And there's a tattoo of one of my posters on his calf.
Oh, wow.
Amazing!
And I had seen this online before because he had posted it, but I didn't connect the two people. So I was like, "Oh wow, this
Which
is a
poster is
first."
it?
That's awesome.
It was Sanguinarium.
Wow,
Season.
nice.
That's an interesting
It is
Yeah,
an interesting
yeah.
choice, isn't it? And the poster's pretty rad. I mean, it's like a skeleton, like death kind of image wearing scrubs, and then there's a pentagram over it. And the tattoo artist did a good job of recreating it on his leg. So.
As one would hope. Right?
Yeah.
That's great.
But it's part of this collage that he has, that he's been starting on his leg of trying to have pieces of a lot of different episodes from the show. It's this whole
Wow.
X-Files collage.
So he's making his own museum.
Yes,
Body.
on himself. He
That's
himself
cool.
is the preservation.
That's amazing.
That's interesting, though, that it suggests the least memorable episodes can make for some of the most memorable posters. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
If anything, to motivate myself to make posters for some of my less favorite episodes.
The imagery from that one is certainly memorable.
It
It
is,
does stand out.
Yeah,
That's true.
And it has a good guest cast as well. And I'm blanking on the name of the actor who plays
Richard Beeman?
Yeah, from
Yeah,
Twin Peaks.
yeah.
So it's cool to see that kind of crossover. And there's a lot of that between X-Files and Twin Peaks and
Yeah.
those two actors.
Yeah, that's cool. So, what was your favorite item that y'all got to see in person from the show in the
Mine
collection?
was the same as yours.
Yeah,
Show me your
the
bobbers.
show me your bobbers hat. I
was
freaked
good.
out, you guys. Like Carl was with me. He thought I was going to spontaneously combust over the hat.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd been able to wear it, Sarah, I think you may have done that. But
I absolutely, yeah.
thankfully, there was a pane of glass between you and the item in question. So
I
that's
did
good.
ask.
What made it really even better was that when you found out the hat was here, then we walk out, go down the corridor, Mitch Pledgies turns up around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Sarah's
how
all
I'm
over
still
that
here,
place.
you guys. I don't know how I didn't spontaneously combust. But
I don't really have a
managed to
favourite.
survive.
It's just odd seeing the screen-worn costumes, I think.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
they look right,
Bloody
but they also look
clothing.
not right. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
weird.
with the fake blood still
Yeah,
on them.
the
Yeah.
Mulder's t-shirt and jeans from
Yeah.
one of the struggles, and there's blood on it, and like,
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the sizes is interesting that a lot of them look small.
Yes,
And I don't know if
that's
that's how they're displayed on the mannequins or if it's just the size of the people.
He was
I've
saying
noticed
it's
that.
tiny. Some of these articles are just tiny. They couldn't
Yeah.
even fit them on the mannequin. They couldn't close them up, so they had to
Wow.
do some fancy draping
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
they're just
too.
tiny clothes.
I guess some of the actors are small. That's true. I know, like, if you go to a Hard Rock Cafe, a lot of those clothes are super, super tiny. You know, people are just smaller. So I don't know, but that's one of the things I thought about when we were looking at it, is it just looked, like you said, like, it's a little disproportionate to what I would expect.
Yeah,
But that
that's-
made it even more interesting.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or everybody just looks really good in tight clothes.
Maybe that's
and
it.
they do, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to see Lord Kenboat's head. That was pretty cool. It's amazing because you walk in there and it's almost kind of like a garage sale. It's just like this really eclectic, random collection. But then you peer around at everything and you're like, I remember that episode. I remember that thing. I saw that, and you just keep seeing stuff.
Yeah.
And it just jumps out to you at random times.
Yeah.
And they had episodes playing, too, in the
Yeah, yeah.
background as well.
Yeah, and I also appreciate the effort that went into it, just because we know they've loaded this truck up. They was there for
Yeah.
hours, weren't they, getting the
Yeah.
room ready, and they're gonna, it's gonna take them some time when they pack up.
Yeah.
I think they kept saying, we'll be here 2 or 3 hours before we're ready, and then you go back 2 or 3 hours later just to see how they're getting on. Not necessarily to see the stuff, but to see how they're getting on, and
Right.
to check in with them.
And
We might be a few more hours yet. So.
Yeah.
well, they were talking to the Enigma at one point. And
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
he's a very talkative guy.
Right,
Yeah.
that's a
He
conversation.
wandered in because he saw himself on the pinball machine.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That's going to be quite an experience.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah. So there's also a big autograph room set up. That was pretty exciting to enter and just spin around and see all the names of all these people, and get excited about going to meet them. Who was your favorite person you got to meet yesterday?
Well, I spent a bit of time in there, but I only really wandered over to see Mark Snow for a couple of minutes because he was on the, his table was free. I didn't get any autographs, but I enjoyed being in the room and having a look around. And like you say, you got Chris Owens to the right and Mitch Pledgies over there, and all that kind of stuff's really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think some of the others here got some more autographs and
Cathy.
selfies and things.
I got quite a few autographs. It was going so quickly that I went and bought more tickets so I could. But I had Mitch Pledgies, Brian Husky, and Mark Snow all autograph my Lost Art of Forehead sweat poster that JJ also autographed because he created it. Yeah.
Nice.
That was really awesome. That was so fun. Mark Snow was really nice. He was just, there was no one else there. And he goes, you want a picture too? And I'm like, I didn't buy a ticket. He goes, I don't care. Do you care?
Jay runs out.
No. I declined because I'm a rule follower by nature, so I didn't do that. But then Chris Owens was really delightful too.
Yeah. Marlene?
I haven't gotten Mark Snow's autograph yet. I intend to today, but I ran into him in the hallway after his panel discussion, which he did yesterday, and he said sort of the same thing. I asked, like, how's it going? He's like, I'm having such a damn good time here, and he was so enthusiastic, and he talked about how, like, smart the fans were and how this was the best event that he's done and that type of thing. And I mentioned the surgery, the piece of music from I Want to Believe to him, and he was like, oh, that's my favorite too, and we talked about that for a little while, so that was really great. And then I waited in Dean Hagelin's line. He apparently is the chattiest of the gunmen, and then also I think he was coming from his photo session, so it took a little while, but he was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk to.
Dean's literally just left about 10 minutes ago while I was setting up and came up to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's so nice. Yeah.
So he remembers the X-Cast as well, which was nice when it's that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And he has a great podcast too. He and another person that's a director, like in the business in Hollywood, but not affiliated directly with the X-Files. So I mentioned that as well because it's a really fun podcast that he does. So he was happy about that.
So that's the Chill Pack Hollywood.
Chill Pack Hollywood Hour.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So, nice. Yeah. JJ, did you get to? You were hustling.
I didn't get in the autograph room at all, but I managed to meet everybody just through coming and going, and then there was a little get together after everything last night that everybody went to, so it was nice to chat with people. And everybody seems super nice, and Mark Snow's a character. When I was Friday night and I had just wrapped up with the booth and I was exhausted, and I'm getting on the elevator to go up to my room, and a guy gets on and he's wearing this red cap that says "Trust No One." I was like, "I like your hat." I said, "Mine's a little nondescript." I was wearing my black X-Files crew hat, and so we're going up in the elevator and we're chatting, and he's like, "Oh, are you affiliated with the show in some way?" I said, "Well, I do the official artwork for the show and the posters." And he's like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And we're getting off the elevator, and he's like, "Do you know if there's signings tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you know who's signing?" I said, I don't have the schedule memorized." I said, "Oh, my name's JJ, by the way." He said, "Oh, I'm Mark Snow." I punched him on the arm. I said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist." So he's a character.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. How about you?
So we got a selfie with Brian Husky. He was actually very delightful to talk to.
Yeah.
And we were fans of him from a couple of other shows that he's done, Children's Hospital and Mr. Neighbor's House, which is a very offbeat humor. So, and he really perked up when we told him that we were fans of those two shows, and so he chatted with us for a good 5 minutes, and I thought it was just so neat, just continuously seeing all the stars just wandering through the hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Nicholas again. Yeah. So it was just very exciting.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, and I was saying how, a few of them, I'm not sure if I was just in a busy airport or just on the street somewhere and passed by, Bruce Harwood, would I actually recognize him? Or, because he just sort of, I recognize him from the show and in this environment because I'm looking for that, but just on the street, he just looks like any other guy, so normal, and not that anyone looks abnormal, but you know what I mean?
I bet he's really happy about that.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, so, and we were also wondering if he maybe grew his beard back out or if he kept it.
Well, I thought I'd seen pictures of him from the last few years when he was without beard. So I was pleased to see it was there today. Yesterday. A little grayer, but I remembered. But
We got to
part of the contract, right?
Right. Kind of. Right. Yeah. So I got to talk with Sheila Larkin. She was really sweet. Really sweet. Gave me a big hug and stopped by to talk to Brian Husky and all that. So that was fun. Yes, I met Mitch. I had my selfie with him. I survived. The world is still spinning. We also did, Cortland arranged a huge Gishy photo with 25 girls, and that was a lot of fun. It went very smoothly. There was a lot of planning, and it took about 5 minutes, and it was great. So we had a good time doing that. It was good to, and we've just had Jay come up. So, hey, Jay, how's it going? Come on over here. Yeah.
Come out here, Jay.
So I guess we should introduce Jay.
I'm gonna
people who
Yes,
know
this
who he
is Jay Repsel. He's the guy who organized all these fun times for us.
Hello, everyone.
We're so happy you could stop in.
Thank you. I'm good to be here, and apologize for my voice. It's been a lot of yelling and excitement going on this weekend. So
Yeah, so we're just talking a little bit about the autograph room and how efficient it was and how smooth everything was, and just having the opportunity to talk with people and meet them.
thank you. That's one of the best compliments we can get. I mean, we go to a lot of conventions ourselves. We're fans. We're autograph. We're in the hobby. So we see what works and what don't, and it's great. We take great pride in moving things quickly, and we learned stuff last year with I don't know if you guys were there, but Nick Leah's line was a little slower because they weren't alternating VIPs in general. So there's lessons you learn every year, and all you can do is get better based on the information you have. So.
Do you know how many people are here, or how many countries are represented? Or?
Last thing we checked, it was over 15 countries.
Yep.
On the official attendance numbers, I know it was over last year, but I'm not sure yet. We were surprisingly had a lot of walk up, which I was shocked, because this is kind of you have to travel here, so it was maybe it was local people, but I was shocked by that.
I had an experience at the booth where people were coming up and saying, "Is this an X-Files thing?" Then I had one guy come up and said, "I'm here for a wedding, and the bride and groom are huge X-Files fans."
No way.
Yes.
And I was
Okay.
like, wow, they really lucked out here. You're at an X-Files convention, man.
I have a story about that. So that's going on the wedding. This happened. There's actually a haunted house convention here.
Yeah.
Okay, so at one point, there's the wedding who's X-Files fans by happenstance. There's the X-Files convention. And there's a bunch of cosplayers dressed in Mortal Kombat cosplay sitting at the bar. So I just walked down the lobby and I was like, what is exactly happening right now, But yeah, it was a pretty interesting crowd.
Someone had to explain that to me, because I saw a young lady in an incredibly revealing outfit, and I was like, I don't remember that episode of the X-Files. It's from a video game.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to just see everybody mingling, and everybody is being so kind and having such a fun time.
Yeah, and
it's a great atmosphere.
Well, no, and I appreciate that. I feel like, I'm a fan of the show. This isn't we're not a big corporation doing a show. I live the X-Files. I have an X-Files tattoo. I fell in love with the show just like you guys did, and now I almost feel a responsibility that I owe this to the fandom to bring them all together, as crazy as it sounds. I don't want to say it's a religion, but it's an important part of everyone's lives, and to keep it alive and keep it going, I'm pretty proud that we're able to do that. So it means a lot to everybody. So
Have you had sufficient time this weekend to actually enjoy it?
I have. As you can tell by my voice, I had a really late night last night. I had 2 different after parties to go to, and I'm a little short on rest, but I have been enjoying it and just hanging out with the cast. And as a promoter, what you want to do is obviously you want your patrons to have fun and have a nice time and efficient in the lines and all that stuff, but you want the talent to be happy. We start at the top with the show and just try and get everybody. Nobody's untouchable. And for those actors to come in and have a good experience, and writers and whatever else, and to pass that on to other people for potential guests for next time, that's really important to us. And to treat them well and make sure they're taken care of every step of the way, because you hear all these horror stories and you just don't want to be that story ever. So
Yeah.
Well, no, it's great that you mentioned next time, because I noticed Dean Haglund.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Dean Haglund said, "See you next year," or something like that. So X-Fest 3, is he being a bit premature there?
So here's where we're at with it. This is the total honest God truth. I said, let me get through this weekend and think about it, but we don't know if we're going to do it every year or every other year at this point.
Okay.
So, you're asking people for a large financial commitment, obviously, to travel here, to buy the tickets. So part of us is like, well, what if we wait a year, like Star Wars Celebration used to do, they would do every other year, and people could, budget for it a little better.
It builds the anticipation,
It
too.
does. Yeah. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? But on the other side of things, it's like we have this momentum going, and it's like you almost just want to keep it rolling. So the challenge we're running into now, and not saying it's impossible, but moving the show up to these hotels, they're much more sought after. So the meeting space is booked for things. Well, not to say we couldn't do it, because their experience has been wonderful too. They're overwhelmed with how great and the people have been and everything. So if we do it, if we do it, it's going to be the same time, the same hotel. Tickets on sale in October. That's what I know. I think we'll probably have a decision by the end of the day. As crazy as it sounds. Yeah, we're literally, it's like, I know it sounds wild, but that's how we decide. This show was an accident to begin with. We own some other properties, and we do a Sons of Anarchy show. We do a horror convention, and this was I'm like, let's try X-Files. it just happened to be the 25th anniversary. I didn't even hear that anywhere. It was just happenstance, and it just everything. The ticket sales, we put tickets on sale, and my phone starts going crazy. I'm like, this is unbelievable, and it turns out it's our biggest show now, and my favorite one. So.
Yeah. Well, we're happy you put it all together for us as fans and all that. We've been having a really great time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you gonna hang out for a little bit, or?
Yeah, if you want. Well, I got a few minutes.
If you need to go, feel free.
Yeah. We don't want to keep you.
Yeah. I got about 5 minutes. I'll sit around and listen to you guys.
JJ, are you good?
I think we'll probably head out at the same time.
That's cool.
Awesome. So, I think we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the panels. JJ, since you're here, maybe talk about.
Yeah, no, I missed your panel, sadly.
Me too.
But Marlene...
I did go. I was there, yeah.
Okay.
Over there.
So, what do you guys think? What did you take away from the panel? What were the main things you enjoyed about it?
It's going to be awkward.
Yeah.
Well, it was a big disappointment.
No.
I don't know who this guy is. I just sort of wandered in. No, I didn't take any notes. I'm not as prepared as Marlene while she's pulling that up.
Well, I can tell, from my perspective,
that's a good way to
it was a lot of fun. I enjoy talking about my work. If people are interested, I'll talk about it. If you're at the panel, you'll found that I can talk about that kind of stuff, and it was great talking with Joe, who is super talented. Joe Harris, who wrote a majority of the IDW X-Files run, season 10, and then had to reconfigure in season 11, and he talked a little bit about, working on that. So as a fan of that run, it was cool to sit next to him and hear what he had to say. But yeah, it was a really great experience. It's just just to sing Jay's praises here a little bit. Everything leading up to this has been wonderful, and I feel like it's such a great opportunity to get all these like-minded people together, so thank you for putting all the time and work into making this happen.
So Jay, from your perspective, so we've been going out to this pavilion for all the panels and so on. So how have you found that venue and just getting the panels sorted generally,
It's been going really good. I mean, the layout of the building, I think, is pretty cool. Everything's close, but it is a little pain to run from the photo ops to the panel to find somebody. And but I think with the exception of them putting up another tent outside yesterday, there was jackhammering going on. So I get a message, they're jackhammering outside of the panel tent. Can you make it stop? I'm like, so I ran outside and ended up talking to them and getting them to settle down. But yeah, it's been really good, and I think we have an audio engineer to make everything go smooth, and I think people generally enjoy the panels because it's a little time to meet everybody, and they can ask questions, and the interactivity of the weekend is one of the most important parts. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, Ann Simon just walked up, the science advisor. Hi, Ann.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm great. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. We've spoken a couple of times before on the podcast during the 24-hour live show.
Yes, I remember that well.
That was a lot of fun.
We spoke about that last night.
Yeah, Tony. I think Tony barely survived that, but he did survive, which is important. So.
It was an amazing achievement for him to do.
Absolutely.
I was just happy to be part of it, and happy we got the times worked out, and that I saw the messages that I was supposed to be on when I thought it was going to be 12 hours from then. But we got it all done.
Yes, that was quite a feat. So I think Jay and JJ need to head out, but thank you guys so much for stopping in.
Thank you for everything.
We appreciate
you guys
it.
Are awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, appreciate all your support and being here, and
absolutely.
Hopefully we can do it again.
Come and chat with us anytime. You're always welcome. All right, thank you so much.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
So Anne, I was wondering, you arrived yesterday to participate in this event today. So what exactly are you up to today? What's going on?
Well, I'm really excited about getting together with fans and obviously talking science. Science was such an important part of the show. I think science just made it real. I mean, it wasn't a show about real things, very supernatural, but the science part of it made it really come alive, and the attention to detail. So I was just so happy to be a part of it, and never expected to ever be part of an X-File convention. So But I'm thrilled that they wanted the science here. So
yeah, absolutely. I kind of feel like our own experience is similar. Like when we were watching the show originally airing and all that, we never would have imagined we'd be sitting here in Schaumburg, Illinois, doing an X-Files podcast, talking to you and all these amazing people.
I wish I could go back to my 13-year-old self.
Exactly, and just be like, hey, guess what? This is going to happen. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, did any of us who watched the first episode, as I did, and this was before I knew that the Chris Carter doing the show was the Chris Carter that I had known for a number of years, never did I imagine what would happen, what would come from that show. I mean, obviously it was wonderful. I mean, it was so well done and acted and written, but who would have thought that 20 years later we're still talking about it, we're still living it, we're still watching episodes back then and finding meaning in them, and that 400 people get together to celebrate this really iconic television series that is more to a lot of people than just something that they watched on TV. What really amazes me is all the stories from people that have gotten in touch with me. People saying, I was in the hospital and I was in so much pain, I wanted to die, but the only thing that kept me going was knowing that at 5 o'clock each day there was an episode of The X-Files, and I knew that I could make it until then because I wanted to watch that. And there's so many stories like this of people being bullied, and what they really took solace in was this wonderful show that showed this terrific relationship between two people, and so it's I don't know of any other series. Maybe I'm just not into the fandom of other series, but I don't know of any other series that was like that.
Yeah.
So this is something really special, and so that's why I'm looking forward to meeting people today, and I hope that they're looking forward to meeting me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I was wondering about the so-called Scully effect, women inspired to go into science because of the character of Dana Scully. So have you seen direct evidence of that in your career?
Absolutely, I have seen direct evidence of that. I mean, so for one thing, although I was a assistant professor when the show first came on, so it wasn't me that was part of the Scully effect. When I first learned of it, I wish I had kept the email, but I learned of it from a woman emailing me who was doing a PhD dissertation on this thing that she was, I don't think she labeled it the Scully effect, but it was the effect of this television series on young people going into science. And when we talked about it, I didn't believe it, because how could this be? So I was teaching Introduction to Biology back then to majors, and so I decided just to ask my class. So I had about 600 students, big class, and so I just asked at the beginning of the class, I said, I have a weird question to ask you, but how many of you are sitting here in these seats today because of the television series The X-Files? And 2/3 of the hands were raised. I'll never forget that. I mean, it was astonishing to me. And so besides that, and besides a lot of women contacting me about going into science because of the character of Dana Scully, my postdoc, one of my current postdocs in my lab, because I'm a working scientist, his wife is a biologist in the FBI. Why is she a biologist in the FBI? Because of Dana Scully. So there's a direct connection to me, one removed from my postdoc, and just the stories of so many women who say that they have gone into science. And there was the Gina Davis Institute did a study of that recently, and they found an astonishing high number of young people decided to go into science because of this show. So today it seems odd, why would so many people decide to go into science because of it? And I think it brings us back to back then. This was literally the first time on television and the movies where a scientist was portrayed in a favorable light. I mean, all we had before then were scientists as evil. the mad scientists, and we were the dorks. We were the, nobody would want to be this person. I actually, when I gave a lot of Science of the X-File talks, I had this young lady come backstage after one of my talks and say to me, I always wanted to be a scientist, but I'm not, I'm not an introvert, and I like people, and I like talking, and I like doing things. And she said, so I didn't think I could be a scientist. And she said, but I watched you up there, and you're exactly what I want to be. And so now I know I can be a scientist. Well, what were we feeding these young kids when we're trying to develop science in this country? And we're feeding them this litany of scientists as these geeky, introverted, or mad, or unemotional. Yeah. And here, for the first time, there was a character, and I was not expecting, when I watched that first episode, I was expecting to, have another geeky scientist and turn it off after 5 minutes. And then to have Gillian Anderson as Dana Scully, she's beautiful, and she's emotional, and she's a real person. And I emphasize the real person aspect of it. Young people loved that, and they saw how excited she was about what she was doing and how she was helping to solve puzzles and mysteries, and they decided they wanted to do that as well. So this show, more than any other series, affected science and science education in this country. What other series can you point to and say that?
Marlene, I think you were about to speak before I jumped in with that question. Did you have a follow-up on that?
Oh, I was going to say, just in terms of the, Anne being here and as the scientist, but then also, some of the artistic people that are inspired by the X-Files and are then putting their work back into the X-Files. What strikes me as a fan is that everybody here seems to be interested in the ideas of the show. We're interested in the other things too, and we talk about the characters and the plot, but it all kind of feeds into the ideas of the show that Anne is a big part of, and then JJ pulls out to put into his work in a different way. And I just love that. I think that's the sort of the universal part that's going to last forever with it. And I think, we hear Mark Snow saying how excited he is to be here and how he's had these great interactions, and there are a couple other people that have said that as well. And I think that's part of it, is that they sort of see our enthusiasm for the core of their work, and how that's kind of played into the show. So that was just I think that was what I was going to say at that point.
Yeah, I think it makes it more universal, just because, you've got people who are writers who are inspired by the show. You've got the scientists, you've got the artists and the musicians, and it's something that we can all connect through this one kind of magical thing. I think it makes it extra special. So yeah.
And I think people, at least I hope people see that the people that were involved in putting on the X-File, from from Chris to the actors and the technical people, they're all one big family, and when you go on the set, you really see this. Everyone just likes each other, and everyone's happy, and everyone's excited to be there. And it's like more than a job. You're giving something really special to the audience, and so that's just another wonderful part of the show. And I think it comes out at a convention like this.
It does.
Is that it's really the guests are just as excited and happy to be here and talking with fans as the attendees are.
Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed during seasons 10 and 11 was seeing your Twitter account and you saying, I'm going to email Chris with nice comments about the episode from fans and things like that.
And I did. Yeah. That took me a while, because I would put all the comments together, and then I would do snippets of them, and I do a whole thing, the good ones, the bad ones, but just to give some feedback from real people.
Yeah, so presumably after an event like this, will you email him just to tell him some of the things you've heard from fans?
Oh, absolutely. I emailed him right before I came, and he said, have fun, and he told me, I have to look up one of the quotes, but because I said, do you have anything that you'd like to tell people? And he said, well, there's no X-File news, but he said, but never give up. Yeah. And so he wants it to continue. I know that. And I still do what I've been doing for since the internet, is I send him anything interesting scientifically that I find. I send to him for ideas, to give him ideas and things to think about. And so I still do it. I don't know. Will there be a new season someday? I sure hope so.
Yeah.
But at least he'll have some interesting ideas to think about in the meanwhile.
So you guys, Marlene and Ann, you had the opportunity to go to a special event last night. Do you want to just share a little bit about that?
I will. I got to go as Ann's guest to the cast. Thank you to the cast and crew, I guess, to the X-File People Party last night that Frank Spotnitz and Abby Cata hosted for everybody. So that was just a real treat. And when Ann was talking and Carl was talking and Sarah was talking about the people here and how interested they were in being here, the X-Files people, that's really what I got. Like, it wasn't like a work party, or something you'd have to do for your job. Like, they were just so thrilled to see each other, and they were very gracious, like, to me, to anybody else that was there that wasn't directly related to the show, and it was just very comfortable, fun to be there. You could really see how much they enjoyed each other and the sort of like the family aspect, and the ones that knew each other that were sort of re-meeting again was great to see. And then there are a few people that, and this fascinates me, that people have worked on the same show but may not have ever met, either from a different era. And so you see, like Mrs. Mulder talking to Jeffrey Spender or something like that, the actors, and that was fun. And then at one point, I was sitting at the table with Susan Blomart, we're going to say that's how you pronounce her last name, and Larry Musser came over, and they introduced themselves to each other. And I had been talking a little bit to Susan. I was like, but you all were in the same episode. And like, I know, but we've never met because we weren't filming on the same day. So all these years later, they were in Dehander for Let's in season 2, but they had never met. And then they just kind of had a conversation, and I sort of like walked and talked to some other people. But that was a lot of fun to see. So they were all just interesting, normal. I mean, I didn't expect them not to be, but just like really good people. And the other thing that struck me is that they seem to be kind of like living their authentic lives. Like, you could just really see that that's what they are meant to be doing, so that was fun. And they're all funny too. Nick Lee was really kind of like humorous and comical, which you don't see so much on the show. So I was very just happy and privileged to be there.
Yeah. Another thing that you see is that the actors are truly grateful for the opportunity to be on that show. I mean, Nick kept saying, this was just an amazing experience, and he grew as an actor and as a person from being on that show. And so I think, even people who were there just for one episode, it's like now they're part of the X-File family by co-starring in one episode. But I had something really special happen to me last night. So
tell us. Do tell.
Yeah, so
exclusive.
So yesterday just happened to be my birthday as well.
Happy late birthday.
Thank you. And so completely unexpected, they had a birthday cake for me. And Frank gave this speech, and we were going to wish a happy birthday to Anne, and Nicholas's birthday is coming up in a couple weeks. And so they had this wonderful birthday cake, and everybody sang happy birthday. I tell you, that'll be a truly special moment in my life, because and everyone coming up and saying happy birthday afterwards and patting me on the back and stuff. So, I felt very, it was just a wonderful feeling. I mean, scientists don't get this a lot. And,
it's on video. I had a video for you.
That's
amazing. Well,
amazing.
I was forewarned.
Nice.
Was it an X-Files themed cake? Can you describe it for us?
It was not, but Avi had asked me, she said, see, they did it very surreptitiously, because I had mentioned to Avi so what happened was when I was first invited to be a part of this, I'd never heard of X-Fest. I'm not really part of the fandom. And so I got in touch with her, and I said, I've been invited to do this. Who are they? I don't know anything about them. And she said, oh, no, this is real. These are wonderful people, and they put on this first X-File convention that was very popular. And so she said, do it. And so I said, yeah, it's on my birthday. So that was the time I had mentioned her. Yeah, I said, well, should I do this? I missed my birthday. She said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So she remembered that, and then she'd asked me, well, do I like chocolate? She's doing desserts, so she wants to know, do I like fruit? And, I said, well, I like chocolate with chocolate mousse and chocolate, sprinkles, and if you put chocolate on fruit, chocolate covered strawberries, those are good too. So she got me a wonderful chocolate cake and 3-tiered chocolate cake.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was just a very special moment to have all these, wonderful actors and actresses from the X-Files and, singing happy birthday to you.
Best birthday gift ever, right?
Best birthday
That's amazing.
gift ever.
Awesome. Yeah, well, go on.
Can I add one thing? I was going to add as well that there was a lot of discussion about Kim Manners and his work and life and just like his influence on the show, but just also what kind of man he was. And I thought that was great because it's been about 10 years since he passed away. But all of the actors, whether they'd worked with him one time or consistently through the show, at certain points that came into the conversation. And it was really moving to see how he was still sort of a part of things, even though he's no longer here.
I'm so pleased that Marlene came. I mean, Marlene, she really was having a wonderful time and is just a font of X-File knowledge. I mean, yes, she was in that episode with this person, and I who is this person, Marlene? And then she would tell me in what episodes that they were in, and so that was wonderful. I mean, do you know how we actually met? Marlene and I.
I don't know. No.
The listeners may not know, so we would love to let them know. Yeah, please tell us.
So, being on Twitter, I believe what happened was I tweeted out that I had been invited to give one of my science seminars at University of South Carolina. And Marlene was a Twitter follower, and I think she
I had seen something about your book that was posted, and then I figured that was you because I had read that when it came out. So then I followed you on Twitter.
Right.
That. Yeah.
Right. And so she asked if she could come to the seminar, and I said, well, sure, anybody can come. And so she drove from North Carolina, right?
It was South Carolina.
You were in South
an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Greenville. Yeah.
And came to the seminar. And then because she came, it was such a long distance, I invited her to come to the gathering that we had afterwards. They usually have one. And then it turned out there was a problem with my travel going back, so I was going to give an X-File talk just because I was there and I had time and they wanted me to do it. And so she came and listened to the X-File talk. And so that's how we actually met. And since then, she's been a guest at my house, and we've done, when I hosted, episode viewings at my house, she was there. And so we've been, in contact for the last 4 years, and I knew she was coming here.
It's a lot of fun,
and I thought she would enjoy a party like this.
Absolutely. X-Files bringing people together once again.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah. It just keeps happening over and over. I mean, just the connections are amazing. Like, I never would have imagined.
And I think it must be surreal for somebody like Chris Carter, like you said about when you watched the first episode and like, oh well, what's this going to be like? But when he put the first episode into the world, he mustn't, he can't have been thinking about what could come of it,
Yeah.
So it must be strange from his perspective too.
Yeah.
You just hope a few people will watch. I mean,
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was on Fox, so it wasn't on one of the major networks, and Fox was. Had just a few viewers. They weren't even
it was
broadcasting
still new. Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
They were broadcasting maybe 3-4 days a week back then. It was very early. So, you have no idea when you put a show out there. Is it going to survive, 4 or 5 episodes? If there's no viewers, it'll get canceled. But I'll say this about Fox. They saw the quality of what they were getting, and they let the audience build. Yeah. And that's a real kudos because not every network will do that.
Yeah.
But they did. And now, all these years later, they have movies and more seasons and more fans. And
Yeah.
So Anne, I mean, we don't want to impose. So if you need to be somewhere, just feel free to tell us.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
We're going to, I think, talk a little bit about some of the panels that we saw yesterday. I'm sad you missed them because they were pretty good. Like, you didn't arrive till later in the evening, right? Yesterday?
Right, I arrived late.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a panel today.
Yes, tell us about that.
I'm not exactly sure what time the panel is. They've changed the schedule. So
I don't think anything is happening until after 11. So
right, so 11, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a question and answer on the science of the X-Files. And, of course, if there aren't questions, I can talk forever. So I never shortage of talk. So So I'm sorry I don't get a chance to give my full X-File talk, because I've given that at so many places, the Smithsonian and different museums, and I'm doing it at a library coming up, and I did a TED talk on it.
Nice.
So, but I'll answer questions about, how I got involved and how much the show has meant to science. So I think we'll get into some of the, a little of the Scully effect, although there's a full panel on that. But we'll just talk about how important science was to the show and the contributions that I made. And again, I didn't make contributions to every episode. I helped Chris. So when Chris had a question, he would call me, and then he would send me the script, and I'd go over it and try to clean up any little issues. And that's pretty much how it went until the season 10, because then I really did a lot for one episode, and that was my struggle too. And I got, when he told me and my friend Margaret, who was also helping, huge X-File fan, a real life Scully, okay, a forensic, medical doctor, infectious disease person in Canada. But when he told us, we were sitting in a restaurant, that he was going to give us story credit, actual credit on the screen for it, we both started screaming. So here we are, we're not young anymore, and we're at this, fancy restaurant, and we're like screaming.
I know you've got your script right here for My Struggle too. Is that your personal copy?
Yeah, this is just one that I just found at home before I came here, and I found that I still had all my notes in it. So I thought, well, I would bring it and just talk about some of the differences. But there's another page there. But it was during the filming of Babylon. So poor Chris, he was directing Babylon, and at the same time he was trying to write this episode. And every single day in the morning, so there's more here. In the morning we were going over script pages, and then we would go into the set on Babylon, that was the day that they were filming in the bar, the dancing, which was just like clear. I mean, I know people have different opinions of that episode, but being there on that day for that filming was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah.
The dancing and the music that Chris said we would get really, really tired of, but we didn't. and then running back to his trailer to work on this script, together. He would have pages. I would be going over it. I helped edit it to make corrections, and because he didn't have any time, it was such a highlight. And I thought there was so much science in it. And I kept saying, do you want to have all this science? I mean, they're not going to understand it all. He said, no, I want it all in there. I was like, yes, good, excellent. But in that episode, we introduced this whole CRISPR science to the world.
Yeah.
And to this day, I hear about it at meetings. They talk about how the X-Files introduced CRISPR at science meetings. I hear things like that. So it was a really exciting time. And so that's why I have the script with me, and I just realized that I still have my notes in it.
So can I ask about how you would edit a script then? So if you come across a line or something that's completely inaccurate, do you write something quite tactful, or do you get the red pen out, or how do you kind of approach that?
Yes, well, I mean, for My Struggle too, there was a lot, because it wasn't the fifth or sixth draft of it.
Yeah.
So it was at the beginning.
Yeah.
So there were, a few typos and a few little, minor little things. And then there was a lot of science, and there were things that didn't make sense to me. So I wrote it down with page numbers, and I would show it to Chris, and I'd just go through it, and I'd tell him what I thought. And he used virtually everything that I suggested. So if it was in the old days where he would send me this, he'd fax me the scripts. I'd have all these fax pages coming out. But he would fax me the scripts, and if I saw something was wrong or something that I wasn't happy with, like the original science in the first movie, that had to change because it was, viruses, and I work on viruses, that had to change. So what you have to do is you have to come up with something better.
Right. Yeah, constructive.
Yeah. So it's got to be. It's never. You can't do this. It's just. Wouldn't it be better if it was this, and this is actually based on something real, and viruses can't actually do that. but here's something that could, and it would be just as interesting and exciting, and so he agreed.
Yeah.
So if Mulder or Scully were saying something that was just not quite accurate, what you would try to do is make changes that didn't disrupt the cadence. So you use the same number of syllables. And then I would give him like 2 or 3 different possibilities. You could say this, or you could say this, you could say this. Right. And you go, okay, how about, we'll do number 2. He likes that.
I was going to say, we recorded a podcast on the postmodern Prometheus, which isn't out yet, but I'm editing it. But I remember a discussion about word choice with the phrase, the pupae grow into a series of beautiful segments, and you said, that's incorrect.
That's incorrect.
But it sounds funnier than, I guess, larva, right? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a thing that was like, I guess, what you were saying to me was like, you have to the embryo, right? You kind of have to let that go, because pupa is funnier than embryo.
Well, I actually did. So, postmodern Prometheus, it was my idea to use these flies. I mean, that was my. I was always giving Chris suggestions, and he was always not taking them for episodes. Because you come up with stuff, and he goes, "It's been done," or "No."
Yeah.
But then I came up with this monster of the week that would involve these crazy fruit flies with legs coming out of their mouths and legs instead of antennae and stuff that are real, and he loved it. And so he took all of that, and he went to Indiana University to where they have the flies, which is where I went to graduate school, and wrote this incredible episode. And I actually did not see the script for that, but he found me. When I watched it, I was giving a seminar in Texas, and he found me at my hotel there and asked me what I thought of the episode, and I loved it. So there were a few little minor things, but it's not supposed to be real. It's television.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew Blaker just showed up.
Morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have Ann Simon here. Hi. Yeah. So we're just talking a little bit about the science of the X-Files, and yesterday in Nick Lee's panel, he talked about the special effects of when he had the black oil coming out of his face, and told an interesting story about how the prosthetic was over his face, and then they had the oil coming out, and it was all over him, and they broke for lunch and kind of just left him sitting there for a minute. He's like, "Where's everybody going? I'm still here." So, was that before your time, or was that
the black oil?
With the black oil and the virus?
Oh no, that was during my time.
Yeah.
But we then used the black oil during the first movie as a way to get, something into people that would. Then,
so you contributed more as the words and all that. You not necessarily the look of it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, the only thing is Chris, when they were filming, let's say My Struggle 2 or some of the others, he would send me some shots.
Yeah.
And say, this is what this looks like. And
close.
It looked really good. Yeah. So they would film, when they were in Canada, they would film things, the science stuff at University of British Columbia.
Yeah.
And they had people there making sure that it looked correct. And that they were handling the instruments correctly and things like that.
Can I just check with Kurt? How long have we been talking for? I've lost all conception of time.
I think I have. We're at 55 minutes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sarah.
Throw it to me, Kurt.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think let's talk just briefly about the screenings we went to yesterday, because those were a lot of fun. We got to see Unusual Suspects with the Lone Gunman, and we got to see The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat with Brian Husky, and that was a good time. But are you going to head out?
I didn't see any of them. So.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
I sure loved that episode.
It was a lot of fun,
Forehead Sweat episode.
Yeah,
right.
Good times.
There were a lot of really good episodes in this last year.
Yeah.
There really were.
And
so good.
I'm the kind of person that, as a big fan of the show, who doesn't. I'm not looking for something. I'm not expecting something. I'm not, oh, if I don't see this, I'll be so upset kind of person. I'm just, what are they putting in front of me? Let's just watch this and kind of soak it in. And I just thought there was one episode after another that I just loved, and that was one of them. But in the last 2 seasons, and I know some people were disappointed and some people were really happy, but there were some really iconic episodes in there that I was just blown away by.
I agree, to be
Yes,
honest.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Anne. Well, I look forward to the panel very much, and thanks for stopping by to
We
talk
sure
to us.
will.
It was
Appreciate
great.
you. We'll
Yeah.
see you. We'll see you soon. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. So Unusual Suspects, we got to watch it with the Lone Gunman, and that's a fun episode. I recorded that episode for the analysis with Darren Mooney, and we had a really good time with that. That one's going to come out eventually. And
Well, all the episodes. One thing I would say, that was a lot of fun, and the guys were great, introducing it and talking afterwards. Very funny. Handled the Q&A really well. All the screenings have made me appreciate David Duchovny even more. He's so funny, and I've always known he was funny. I've always really rated him. But just some of his line readings really go over in a live setting, it seems. That was one thing I noticed with Humbug, and then in Unusual Suspects he had some good lines too. So
I would switch that. I think Gillian Anderson in some moments that I watched during the screenings that I didn't pick up on.
Yeah,
it's
subtle.
Reaction
little
shots
subtle
and-
things
yeah.
which people were laughing at, but I might have hit the punchline which Mauda had done, but then didn't see the reaction of Scully. So things like that, with having that audience there really made a big difference.
The sound system and the screen, just like the full immersion, I think all of it was great.
And I like how it's set up just visually. Like they've got the green light behind and the screen, and it's just kind of like glowing, and it's like this great atmosphere. And I'm interested that they chose, the more humorous episodes, Monster of the Week episodes, and then we've got Plus One coming up later. But
you're gonna miss that.
I'm gonna miss that one.
Two Darren Morgan episodes. Yeah, you're gonna miss Plus One. We think we're gonna stay.
Just about, I think.
Just about. Forehead Sweat was a lot of fun. I think Brian Husky came on and said that wasn't the most technically flawless presentation I've ever seen, or something like that. They had a few glitches, but I still really enjoyed the episode.
Oh yeah.
He was very funny too. Not an aficionado of the series by any means, but he said one or two fun things about getting the script and so on, didn't he? I think.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Cathy's back. Hi, Cathy.
Hi. I'm all packed and checked out. Okay. It's sad.
I know it's hard. We just checked out and packed up, and I don't want to think about it right now. But so are there any moments?
Maybe you want to talk that? Or?
Yeah. So last night we had a very interesting experience. You guys
Talking
did.
about a root beer float, or so what happened was Karen Connoval's at this event, and I've spoken to her a few times actually since I had talked to her on the podcast, and I just dropped her a message a few weeks ago to say I'm coming to X-Fest and so on. So then when she arrived and had checked in, I had a kind of a message from her saying let's find out let's find each other. So we met in the lobby, and she was great. She came and sat with us for a long time, and then we seemed to gradually acquire people, didn't we, Cathy? Yeah, the group got steadily bigger. She was lovely.
All ex-cast group.
Yes.
Yeah,
It wasn't other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all people we know.
Yeah.
And this whole time, by the way, sorry, Carl.
It's okay.
I was in the Mitch Pledgies panel this whole time. So you guys were talking and chatting, and I was hanging out with Mitch Pledgies. So
Yeah, so we got some nice photo. Karen offered to take some photos of us. So it's a very nice group shot, but it's extra special because she was the guest photographer, I guess.
yeah, and my phone died, and I had to go run up to my room after the panel to charge it up, and I got like 6 messages from Cortland saying, "Where are you? We're doing our photo. We're about to lose our photographer." And I was like, "What is she even talking about? When did we even get a photographer for the X-Cast? Like, what is that?" And so I called her, and she answered the phone and she's like, "Where are you?" I was like, "Well, I'm upstairs. I'm coming down now to the lobby." And she goes, "Oh, good." And then all of a sudden you hear, "Hang on. And I heard, "I'm hungry" in my ear, and I screamed. And everybody on the elevator was like, "What is wrong with you?"
What was brilliant about that on the other side of the phone, because obviously we were all around when that happened, that Karen was literally going, "Is that Sarah? Is that Sarah? Is that Sarah?" And it was, and she went, "Yeah, give me the phone.
Yeah, so I came down off the elevator, and she was right there, and she was like, Sarah! It was great, and then she took a picture of us together, and
that was really special. That was great exchange, I guess. Andrew, talk to us about your day yesterday and Xfest for you so far.
You got to go to some of the panels, right?
Yeah, we sat through all of the panels from the Art of X-Files with Joe Harris and JJ Lendl through Krychek, Reyes, and Skinner, and then watch the Unusual Suspect screening. So it was really good. It was really cool. We got to keep the same seats. And, and then went to dinner, and that was pretty much it at that point, but it was great.
Are you here for the remainder of the day, or do you have to skip out?
Probably leaving about 2:30 or so. I think the Frank Spotnitz panel is the last for me, so.
Do you think we should wind up?
Yeah.
That's okay. Does anyone else have any stories or thoughts they want to share before we do go?
I think just the panels themselves, I managed to get 2 or 3 questions on the when they got people to come up. But we hadn't asked about Linda McGraw, and Nicholas Lee was saying how much of a friend that she is to him and all that type of thing. And there was I asked Mark Snow about between seasons 3, 4, and 5, how much workload he had on, because he obviously had Millennium in the film, and how much of that how much restraint he needed to do that. So there was a good element of that. I think I would echo a lot of what a lot of people have said, is that the whole event has just felt so calm, so nice and relaxed as well, and you can literally just walk up to anyone and talk to them, and it's been an absolutely fantastic weekend as far as I'm concerned. So that was kind of just what I wanted to mention, really.
Marlene or Cathy, any final thoughts?
I would add, Kurt was talking about asking a question. I asked a question at JJ Lendl and Joe Harris's panel, because JJ had talked about how 20th Century Fox had asked him to do officially do the artwork for the episodes, and he said, he had a regular full-time job at that time, and sometimes he was designing posters on his lunch hour because he had to get the work done. And he talked a lot about the importance of finishing things, and also just, he said this opportunity may never come again if I don't take it, so he went for it, and it's worked out really well. And I really wanted to know if the posters that he had designed in that short period of time that just kind of came to him were some of the ones that he thought were his favorites or the most authentic, or if it was the ones that took more effort. And he really talked about his process, and some of them, the idea was great, or he really loved the idea, but getting it onto the poster didn't translate as well, versus the ones that just kind of happened automatically. So I thought that was really interesting kind of insight into, his thinking process about it. And he had earlier talked about finding the core of the idea of an episode and how he's going to put that into his work. So that was a really good discussion that he had at that panel. That's probably one of my favorite exchanges at the panels.
Cool. How about you, Cathy? Anything that you want to tell us or want to say before we go?
I got to go to Annabeth Gish's panel and asked her a question. I asked her about Improbable, told her how much I liked it, and I asked was it hard for her to learn the numerology script? And she said her husband still has PTSD from helping her run lines. I thought it was really cute.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I actually got brave enough to ask a question at the Mitch Pledgies panel, and
will you marry me?
That was not it, no. I asked him if he enjoyed the Audible experience with the Audible books, and what kind of books he likes to read and that kind of thing. And he said that he really did like doing the Audible stuff. And he talked a little bit about being in a really tiny booth to record that. And he said it actually didn't take very long. I think he only spent about 4 hours on it, recording that. And he also did some of the narration for the books, the X-Files books, and he said that was a little bit more difficult because he had to try to imitate the inflection and tone of Mulder and Scully. And so he said that was a little bit of a challenge because, he wasn't trying to imitate their voices exactly, but just their style of speaking is unique to them. And, trying to act as another actor acting is kind of, but yeah, that was fun.
Well, so a couple of people in Mark Snow's panel specifically thanked him for Scully's theme from season 8. So later I stopped by his table and I asked him about the genesis of that, and he talked about Chris Carter giving him some piece of vocal music, and he seemed to think it was possibly from Gladiator, which would have been released earlier in 2000, I think. So I thought that was interesting because I hadn't heard that before. But yeah, that was I thought that was good.
Yeah. Kurt and I actually had a chance to talk to Nick Lee at his table, and
I took the opportunity. In his panel, he was saying how much of a better actor he is now compared to when he was in the show, and how he would do different things in different ways. And if he had the opportunity to do Alex Krycek again, he would love to jump at that and do everything better, which I thought was brilliant. So I went to get a selfie with him, caught up with him. Sarah took the picture for me, and we proposed to him a character that he should apply for, which would be Dave Krycek from the Davy Train. So we explained the Davy Train to him, and he found that quite amusing, didn't he?
That's probably the most important part of the entire convention.
Yes, absolutely. Now the Davy Train is out there, and we've planted our seed. So, ex-casters, get ready.
I think also as well, Paige is currently in one of the breakfasts, so we'll catch up with her and add that onto the end of the interview as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
That'll be fun to catch up with her. Also, we have
one thing I need to say before we go, I think, is Tony Black, happy 37th birthday.
Woo!
Enjoy it.
Tony, we love you.
So I hope he's having a good one. I'm sure he is. I don't know what he's up to.
Probably editing this.
Nice can. I said on Friday morning I promised to buy him a present, and I bought him a nice can of I Want to Believe beer. Well, the can's nice. The beer is variable, so we'll see. But hopefully you'll like it. So happy birthday, Tony.
Happy birthday, Tony. We love you.
No, I think so. We're going to close up now, but I think the plan is that Tony's going to drop on any little interviews we've procured at the end of this episode, isn't it? So we did a few yesterday. There might be some more today. We don't know yet. But so that's probably what's coming next.
Okay. Hey guys. Hey guys. We have Dita Asmoro here, and she's like one of the biggest. She is the biggest Mitch fan here. Like you listeners, I love Mitch. I love Skinner. He's my favorite character. But Dita, come on. Tell us how you started the Mitch's Pledgies, which is his fan group. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I met Mitch first time in 2016. And it was my first Comic-Con ever. He came to Cincinnati, and then the first meeting was okay. He's a nice guy, but nothing special came out of that. But before I left, I told him, like, hey, I will see you again in a couple of weeks because I'm going to see Jillian in Utah, and he was going to be there as well. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, I'll see you then. And then 2 weeks later, when on my way to Utah, my first flight was late, so I missed my connection flight. And then I was new in Twitter, and I didn't know that celebrities actually read their tweets. So I sent out a tweet tagging Mitch and Jillian saying, oh my God, why is it so difficult to meet Mitch Pileggi and Jillian because I've been stuck in Dallas for 10 hours. And finally I made it to Dallas after midnight. To Utah after midnight. And then the next day, me and my Twitter friends, we were just giggling like an idiot in front of Jillian's booth. And Mitch walked by. And then, of course, we giggled. We were like, hey, Mitch. And then Mitch waved, but he kept on walking. And then he stopped, and he turned around, and he was like, you made it. You were stuck in Dallas for the longest time, right? I'm like, oh, my God. Like, he read his tweets. Like, how is this possible, And he says, well, your name is Mita, right? And I said, no, it's Dita, but Mita sounds like a ship name between Mitch and Dita. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, this guy like remembered me. He almost got my name even. Like, this is insane, you know? And I made him like the beads magnets. I don't know if you've seen it or not, of his characters, Mulder, Scully, and CSM. And then I didn't know that he actually liked it. Like, he said he was cool because I made it or whatever. But then, like, a year later, I saw his assistant's Instagram, and he actually held it up because he wanted a picture with it. I'm like, oh, he really did think it was legit cool, you know? And then, like, throughout that weekend, every time he saw me, he called me by my first name. And I was just so impressed by him, you know? And then the next time I met him was like 3 months later after that. I was going to go meet David Duchovny. If you guys didn't know, I moved from Indonesia when I was 15 to the U.S. because I wanted to meet the X-Files cast, especially David, because I had a huge crush on him. I mean, who doesn't, right?
It's a perfectly logical reason.
Right. So I was like, well, this is it, you know, like 13 years later, this was my moment to meet my childhood crush, right? So I was like nervous, and then I got there on Thursday, and David wasn't there yet. So I went to Mitch's table, and he looked up, and he again recognized me. He was like, Dita, what is up? I'm like, oh God, he still remembers me. Like, it's been months, you know? This guy is awesome. So I was going to shake his hand, and he was like, no, we know each other. Just give me a hug. And I'm like, aw. And then we chat, and then he asked me if I watched Supernatural. And I said, yeah, but not like X-Files, you know. And he pulled out a stack of cards from his pocket. And he was like, yeah, my publicist gave me this, and would you like one? And I looked at it, and it has an AP stamp. And I was like, Mitch, are you sure you want to give it to me? Because do you know what AP means? And he's like, no, I don't. I says, it means artist proof. It means that, you know, it's the first run that the artist approved to go into mass production. And then he just went ahead and signed it. And he's like, it's yours now. It's going to worth so much more. I'm like, oh my God, this dude is so cool, you know? And then I told him that I wanted to do a photo op with David, like doing a certain pose, of course. And he was like, yeah, sure. I'm sure, you know, he's going to be okay about it. And then the next meeting with David, it was a disaster. I'm not going to go into it. It was just a disaster. And then I went to Mitch's table. And I'm like, oh, God, Mitch, that didn't go as planned. I didn't even talk to him about the photo op or whatever. And then Mitch was like, don't worry about it. We're going to work it out. And then I came to the photo op, and Mitch was like, David, this is the girl I talked to you about before. I'm like, oh, God. Like, Mitch talked to me about to David? Like, what? So Mitch was so nice during the photo op. He told David, like, what to do. David, you go here, you make these faces and whatever. And I was just watching all these unfold, like, in awe. And I was like, oh, God, this guy would go above and beyond for fans. You know, it's crazy. And after the photo op was done, I forgot David was even there. I was like, Mitch, thank you so much. And I was crying and stuff.
Pledgy for life.
I know, right? I literally was just like hugging him, crying, like, thank you so much, you know? And then in Westwood World Chicago, that was like the icing that took the cake. Like, he was so nice. He still remembered me. He was so nice to my friends. We just keep spending money at his table because he was so nice. Yes. And then somebody gave him a David Duchovny t-shirt. And Mitch was like, why do I want a David Duchovny t-shirt? And I said, oh my gosh, Mitch, if you really want to, like, I'd make a fan club for you. We'll call him Mitch's Bitches or something. And he's like, yeah, I want a Mitch's Bitches t-shirt. So after that, he followed me on Twitter. And then, you know, he DM'd me. He was like, oh, it was so nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so are you serious about Mitch's Bitches? Like, are you sure about this naming? You know? So we went back and forth about the name. I think one of them was Michachos. And then the other one was Mitch's Minions. And those are the only two that I remember. So finally we decided on the Mitch's Pledgies because, you know, it's close enough to his last name. And we pledge our allegiance to Mitch. So that's the story.
Yes, absolutely. And you are kind of like the queen of photo ops. Oh, like, you have the best ideas. And, like, you put so much work into preparing for these and everything. I mean, you were yesterday you had to go to the UPS store and, like, whatever, but
Well, I wasn't planning it that way. So the first photo op that I did was when I first met that one time. So Bruce Hartwood, X, and CSM was there. And I wasn't preparing for anything. I just didn't want to do like something basic. I was like, hey guys, would you just photobomb me? And then it turned out cute, right? So the one with Jillian in Utah, I asked them to do the same, and then it turned out super cute. And of course, Jillian was there, so it went viral. So after that, I feel the pressure from the fandom to come up with, fun things.
Topping yourself.
Exactly. But I'm not Karen and Chris or anything. I don't do cosplays like that. But it only works out if the talents are super cool about it. Yeah.
It's definitely something I look forward to. I know a lot of other people are, get excited about it too, seeing what you come up with.
Thanks for the pressure.
You're welcome. So what has your experience here at X-Fest been like so far? It's
been a wonderful experience. Like Jay and Josh has organized this really, really well. Everything went so smoothly. It's been great. Way better than some other con I've been in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I saw you at the Mitch panel yesterday, and I know you were taking video and all of that. So, we appreciate you doing that for us other Skinner fans, Mitch fans, and all that. I know you put a lot of work into it, and we're happy that
you guys put a lot of work into this. Just saying.
So we appreciate you. And
well,
we enjoy.
I appreciate you guys.
Carl, do you have anything to add?
Actually, I'm lost for words right now, Sarah. Unusually. I can't think of anything right now. No,
it must
sorry.
It's
nice to meet Dita, I'd say, because I've seen Dita online,
It's nice
we
to
just
meet
shook
you
hands
too.
for the first time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's been really fun about X-Fest is
meeting other people that you never met before.
Exactly. Or people you feel like you know in some kind of way.
And not getting murdered as well.
So that's been a lot of fun, I'd say.
Meeting people online.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met you.
We were
it was in
Atlanta.
Yes,
exactly.
And I can't remember the name. It was like a really tiny little thing.
I think Heroes and Villains Fan
Yes.
Fest. Exactly.
Yes. I'm glad you remember that.
I think that was the fourth time I met Mitch at that point.
Really?
Yeah. And
only the fourth?
Yes. And
because it was like you guys were BFFs already.
Exactly.
Yes.
It was weird, but whatever.
And it was funny because I told him that I went to meet him, and I was waiting because you were still driving. You were stuck in traffic.
Yes.
And I was there with my two kids, my little kids. One of them was still in the stroller, and I had a toddler and everything. And he was being so nice and talking with me and everything. And then I mentioned, I was like, yeah, I don't know when Dita's getting here. And he's like, wait a second, you know Dita? And I was like, yeah.
That was literally the fourth time I met him.
Yes. And then you came to the booth and we met each other. He's like, you haven't actually met each other in real life. I'm like, no, we just met through the Pledgies. And he's like, wow.
I remember that was when we did a video with him. Remember when he used to be on Twitter? We used to do Ask MP every day.
Yes.
One of the silly questions that I asked. Of
that
course,
was so much fun.
Questions. Yes. It was, have you heard the It's Raining Tacos song? I don't know if you guys have heard it or not, but you should. So I did a video with him asking him, hey, is that song still stuck in your head? And then he kind of hummed it. He was like, damn it.
Nice job. So it was a lot of fun. Good times,
it is.
right?
It's been fun. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad we actually got to hang out and spend more time together here. Because we keep kind of missing each other. But
yeah. So one more thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Mitch's favorite charity is No Kid Hungry. So in our Twitter page in the top, there's a link for the Mitch's Pledgies donation page for No Kid Hungry. We do an annual drawing. If you donate more than $10, your name will be put into the drawing. And then one of the prizes is Mitch's autograph. So, tax deductible, obviously, and you could have a chance in winning Mitch's autographs.
That's so awesome. And it's a great charity that
It is, yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. Yeah, great to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you still around online, or are you kind of taking a break from all that business? And
I am not on Twitter currently because Twitter deleted my account.
Oh no!
Maybe I should get back.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, we'll find you.
Yeah, definitely find me.
Come check us out on the basement too, the X-Files
okay.
X-Cast basement.
Yeah, sure.
We'd love to have you over there.
Awesome.
It'd be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure we'll be in touch with you again soon at some point.
You know my number.
I do, yes. So thanks so much for joining us, and we really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right, hello. Just as we finished that recording there, Paige and Michelle both came out of the Annabeth Gish breakfast, so we needed to get your thoughts on that. You've literally just left, so how did it all go?
It was amazing. I'm still processing. Everything that's happened this weekend in general has been so surreal for me that I'm still wondering whether or not I'm in some alternate universe. She was great. And not that I expected anybody to be awful, but at no point did I feel like anybody here on any of the panels, the photo ops, the autograph sessions, I wasn't made to feel like I was just the person providing the paycheck for the celebrity to be here. She was really warm, really engaging, and just really genuine and very, very nice.
Good. Before we get into the details, Paige, you went to Frank Spotnik's yesterday, which we briefly spoke about yesterday when you came out of that. How was it in difference to today's breakfast?
It really was a different kind of vibe. Yesterday, we talked more about the show, and in Annabeth's, it was more that she wanted to learn about her fans, about the people who watch her and follow her. And so we had very little X-Files content, which is totally different from yesterday, where we learned these amazing things that he thought and about what we saw in the past and what he saw when we saw what we both saw at the same time when we watched seasons 10 and 11.
Right. Okay. So how did it all go then? What were your questions that jumped out at you the most during the breakfast then?
Again, it wasn't a whole lot of we asked her a question and then she responded. There was a bit of that.
Yeah.
But mostly, really, it was her wanting to know about us. So she went around and asked everybody's name, where we were from, and then a little while later was very interested in what everyone does for a living.
Right.
I did learn that in the room, I believe it was only her and I that have kids. So that was an interesting bonding point for me.
And the woman who created the play, the musical that everybody went to, she was in there.
Right, okay, right.
So we had a fun discussion with her, and thus a secret handshake was established.
Yes, a secret handshake was formed, and Annabeth will know when one of the 12 people comes up to her and does this, that they were part of the breakfast with her. I think what her biggest theme was, and everybody at the table was female.
Yes.
Everybody was a woman. Was about women supporting women. She's been so amazed by the Gishy movement and just by all the fans in general who come up to her and support her for being women. She thinks it's very and it is very important in these times that women are supporting women. Women aren't tearing women down. The women are building women up. And that was a big theme, I think.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. So, with in general conversation overall, did she mention anything about the festival itself and how she's enjoying it or anything like that? Or
she did mention that she's been asked on differing occasions about fan interactions and whether or not people are creepy or she's intense. And her response to that was in regards to this convention specifically, because that's where we are, but as well as in general, that overall X-Files fans have all been really great and really sweet and supportive and kind of like a giant family. And she seemed to be very impressed with that.
Fantastic. Anything else you want to tell us?
Yeah, we were doing so much personal talk that there really wasn't very much X-Files talk, and I wanted to get in there how upset I was at what they did to Reyes in season 10 and 11 and how it was never explained. I mean, you can explain it with just whispering the word dog it as she dies or whatever. At some point, give us some reason why the most upfront character on the show, the one that would stand up for everyone no matter what it cost her, even Mulder and Scully would back down on occasion and not. She was never self-serving, and her character here was, and I've never understood it. And it's my biggest quibble about those 2 seasons. It's my biggest problem with it, and I have one great line from her. Wait, let me get it exactly. She said she fought with Chris about this. She begged. She asked him, please give me something I can work with. She said, I was bound and muzzled. I had great hair and great suits, but I had no voice.
Right, okay.
It perfectly encapsulates what happened in the last 2 seasons for her.
Okay. While you're both here as well, because you weren't here for the podcast that we've just done, and we've had Jay come up, we've had JJ Lendl, and Simon all on this podcast.
Awesome.
So you missed that, but listen back to that. But overall for the weekend, what's the weekend been like for you so far?
I think I made a Twitter post last night just saying that I was overwhelmed, but in the best way possible. Everything has been just amazing. It just exceeded anything that I could have hoped that it would be. I said this morning that I'm already getting sad and it's not even over yet.
Yeah.
All the celebrity interactions have been great, which I expected, but again, my favorite part of the whole thing, I'm going to get sappy now, is just meeting all of my internet friends face to face and having internet friends that are also real friends, IRL friends. So that's great. That's been the best thing. And Karen Carnival.
What would be your favourite moment so far?
Probably Karen Carnival. That whole, I mean, it's not a moment because I don't think an hour can be a moment, but everything about that was amazing.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
So it was fantastic. What about you, Paige? What's been your favourite moment?
I go to a lot of different pop culture conventions. My sister got me into doing that. And it's always this morass of people, and like people are climbing over people, and nobody really cares about anyone. This is nice and quiet, and it's well organized, and everybody is friendly, and they're respectful, and it's a really well done I mean, everybody's here to see the same people, but everybody is still also able to get to the same people. You'd think with everybody going for the same lines that it would be a problem. We all want the same thing.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It's really well done. I think Jay and his crew have done an amazing job. It's a great con, and I've been to so many, some which I do not want to go back to again. This one, I will always come back to again.
Yeah, well, it'd be good to hear that they're making a decision on that. So it's all good. Well, thanks for both coming out and giving us your thoughts on your breakfast.
Of course, it was great to meet all of you. Kurt and Sarah and Carl and Michelle and these guys.
And don't forget Michael. Michael's going to become our new mascot.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't say anything, just stands in the
Mascot Mike. Mascot Mike.
Okay, so hi guys, this is Carl, and alongside me is Sarah Blair. Hi Sarah.
Hi.
And we're very excited to be sat with none other than JJ Lendl. Hi JJ.
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Yeah, really well. So, what should we ask JJ to start with, Sarah? What do you most want to know?
We were kind of chatting about like the tone of the fandom here and the tone of the con, and that was kind of, we were saying how it feels like we're meeting a bunch of our distant cousins and hanging out with long lost friends that we didn't know we had, and it's just like a feeling of family atmosphere, and it's
So I guess the question is, like, you're on the other side of the table, so how does it look to you, if that makes sense?
I think it looks really similar. I come to this first and foremost as a fan. I think it's really hard to make art of something that you don't care about and have people connect with it. And from my perspective, a lot of the interactions that I have are online. I'm releasing work either through myself or through Fox or through, when I'm working with other properties through their licensees. And it's really cool to see people respond digitally to your work, but it's a whole other story coming out to events like this and then being able to talk to people face to face. And it's really great. I mean, I feel so fortunate that I can come out to these events and can share my fandom in a unique way through my artwork. And I feel like everybody who comes to these things are sharing their fandom in their own special ways, like just seeing people cosplay, or even if it's not a full cosplay, seeing the kind of shirts that people are putting together and the stories that they're bringing. So I think it's similar. It's just really great when
you have a lot of really cool, like-minded people who are into a thing coming together to celebrate it, and there's not a lot of drama or toxicity. And I feel like with the X-Files fandom, especially the folks who are coming out to events like this, there's not a lot of that. It's a really positive feeling, and people are just happy to be together and to act like a community.
So I guess just for listeners who maybe have never been to a con, so what exactly are you getting up to? What are you doing all day? I mean, you've been here since yesterday, or?
So I got in on Friday, which was yesterday. So, I do these on the regular at this point, and every con is a little different. But from my perspective as an artist, I'm tabling is the verbiage that we use, which the first thing you need to table is a table, as you could tell from the name. And then you need a bunch of artwork to put on top of it and behind it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring a variety of pieces out for people to see and then perhaps to purchase if they would like. And then a lot of signing. And for this particular event, I tabled last night, which was not really my intent. One of the organizers says, hey, we have the table set up if you want to just go down for a few hours. And I okay. And as soon as I got to the table and pulled my stuff out, I just got slammed by fans, which was awesome. Very busy, and I wasn't ready. And I kept apologizing to people throughout the evening, saying, I'm sorry I'm not set up. I just have like a pile of prints here. But people didn't seem to mind. And today I'm going to set up, after we finish up here, and table for a little bit. And then we have a panel going on today with me and Joe Harris. We'll be talking about X-Files and arts and comics. And those are the big events for the weekend.
And how did you kind of get started? Like, I don't know how brief you can be, but briefly, from, how did you get started in your artwork? What inspired you versus how did you get to this point at this table? Like, how are you here today?
Okay, so we're looking for an origin story that works. So when people ask me how I got to where I am, I say it's mostly luck. And then I guess part of it is just stubbornness and probably a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder. So I've always liked to draw. I've always liked art, and I've been doing it as long as I can remember. And growing up, I had a passion for it, but the folks around me didn't necessarily think that it was the most logical profession to get into. And so I listened to that for a little while, and but ultimately, I feel like if you're passionate enough about something, you will find your way there anyway. And so I was creating art. I was doing, small commissions for people, and then I started a blog, and I decided for Inktober, and for those not familiar with Inktober, every October, a number of artists online will create a piece a day, usually in ink, but it doesn't have to be, and share it out. It's a way to keep yourself working and to keep yourself motivated through those 31 days and hopefully beyond. So a couple of years ago, I decided that because I really like the X-Files, that I would do an X-Files themed Inktober. But instead of doing an ink sketch each day, I decided to do a vintage style movie poster for episodes of the show. And so that caught on pretty fast with fans, which was pretty neat. And I did that for 31 days, and then I continued doing it, not every day, but I would do one on the regular after that. And eventually the folks at 20th Century Fox caught wind of the work and brought me on to help them with some online promotions, which turned into the physical prints, getting officially licensed, and then that has opened the door to a lot of other projects for me. I was doing the X-Files, Case Files comic book covers, and then I also work with a lot of other properties now for Lucasfilm. I do Star Wars stuff, Indiana Jones, and then I've been working with CBS on a lot of Star Trek projects recently, including a new comic which is out now called Year 5. So it's just like a snowball effect. I feel like if you just keep at it and keep working, and if you try to take advantage of the opportunities that are set before you, then you can, have a modicum of success. So I feel fortunate that has happened.
So I was wondering about, have I seen there's a specific piece you've done just for this event? Is it the Women of the X-Files? Is that correct?
Actually, I did two pieces for this event. I did the event poster, which has likenesses of all of the guests that are attending. And that's big X-Fest 2 poster, and that has a blue version and then a variant red version, and then the Women of X-Files print as well. And those were that was the idea of the organizers. Josh and Jay brought to me. They said they wanted to celebrate the women of the show, and specifically the guests that were going to be here. And who am I to argue? I thought it was a really great idea, and I was really happy to be able to collaborate on that with them and just sort of celebrate the people that everybody's here celebrating, but in print form.
And how cool is it that like we get to be here and we're fans for all this time? Like it's so fun.
It is, yeah.
And like is that just not the most exciting thing?
It's weird. It's hard. It is super exciting, and it's somewhat intimidating, and it's weird. I was chatting with Brian Husky last night, just in the lobby here, and he's familiar with my work, which is cool. And I was telling you before, he was saying that Darren Morgan, the writer and director of the episode that he did in season 11, had gifted him my print. And so we were chatting about that, and as we were chatting, there was one of the attendees kept walking past and like going, oh, and then walking past again. And then finally she came over with two of her friends and was saying, I'm sorry, we wanted to talk to you, Mr. Husky, and started chatting. And then one of them turned and looked at me and said, Mr. Lendl. And then all the focus was shifted to me, and it's kind of bizarre. It's weird because I do think of myself as a fan first and foremost, and then when you get into, you know, an environment like this and people are recognizing you and recognizing your work, you feel like you're almost, you know, on both sides of the coin, which is kind of weird. And most of the time I just want to geek out and, you know, enjoy what's going on around here, but at the same time I realize that I'm sort of a part of the machine now, and that changes the perspective that you have. But I'm elated about both sides of it. I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, so we know you've got like a busy day ahead, so we'll let you go, but maybe just you could point people to your Twitter handle and stuff like that before we do.
Yeah, I think I remember all that stuff. Yeah, you can find me on social media. I'm on Twitter at JJ Lendl. That's JJLENDL. It's the word end with an L on either side. You can also find me on Instagram at JJ Lendl. You can find me on Facebook at JJ Lendl Art Studio. And you can also find me at jjlendl.com. And I've got a shop on there where I sell my APs if you're looking for X-Files, if you're looking for Star Trek, if you're looking for Star Wars. If you're a nerd and you would like to cover your walls with artwork, go to jjlendl.com/shop.
Great stuff. Well, we'll leave you to it, but thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone, it's Carl and Sarah here again, and we're sat with the writer and star of the I Wanna Believe musical, which is playing in Chicago at the moment, Emily Hyatt. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us. So, just a bit of background. So I saw the play with a group. There were a group of us who saw it on Thursday night. Sarah, you haven't seen it, but you're dying to get on YouTube and check out the Skinner drag scene, aren't you? As soon as you possibly can. And the rest of it, yeah. So, Emily, I think the thing that comes through from the play is that you must be a huge fan of the series. So perhaps you could just tell us a bit about that. When did it start? You know, and how meaningful is the X-Files to you, I suppose?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, The X-Files is my favorite TV show, as I'm sure it is for many of the people here this weekend. And I've been a fan for a long, long time. I was probably 7th grade, so like 12 years old when I first started watching it, which, so I'm 27 now, so that was 15 years ago. And it's sort of a funny story how I got into it. My sister is 8 years older than me, and when she was a junior in college, she got engaged, and I'm 12, and I thought, we're just going to go visit her and celebrate. Turns out we were going to Cincinnati to break up the engagement, but these are things you don't tell your 12-year-old child. You're just like, we're going to go visit your sister, and secretly, my mom was like, I'm going to break up this engagement. So we go to Cincinnati, and I think it's a totally normal trip, because I think my sister's boyfriend's great, because his dad had a pool, and that's all that matters to a 12-year-old. So we go to Cincinnati, and my sister and her boyfriend were living with another guy who had all 9 seasons of The X-Files on DVD, which was a rare thing back then. This is like 2000-something, back when DVDs were like $120 a season. And my mom needed me distracted while she was going to break up this engagement, and she just like sat me on the couch, and she loved The X-Files, and she was like, you're old enough to watch it, you know, the way you brush aside your third out of 4 children. You're like, oh, you're old enough to watch it. And that was the first time I watched The X-Files, and I was obsessed from the minute I started with the pilot episode, just immediately. And I then spent all my allowance money after that slowly collecting DVDs, convinced my parents to get the Sci-Fi Channel on cable so I could watch it on TV as well. And it's been like that one TV show that I've just never moved on from. Because they're, shows you pick up and then you drop them and you lose interest, and The X-Files has just been a constant obsession for me, for sure.
I can identify with that, yeah. I think a lot of us here can. Yeah. So how did you get the idea for your show? Like, is it just because you love the X-Files, or how did you decide, like, hey, I want to write about this?
Well, I am a comedian here in the city, and I sort of just, you want to write the shows that you would want to see. And shortly after season 11 finished, I was a little disappointed with the ending of season. I liked it for the most part. I enjoyed season 11, but just that last episode, I was a little disappointed. So it sort of made me think, well, what would I do if I were writing an X-Files episode? And I was like, well, I wouldn't even want to do season 11. I'd want to write that episode in season 7 that we never got to see, where Mulder and Scully finally bang and make a baby. Like, it happened. We know it happened. I refuse to accept any other explanation for how William came into existence. Mulder and Scully had sex in season 7. So I was like, I want to write that story. And I've always wanted to be in a musical. I'm not, like, musically trained or anything. So I was like, well, if I write a musical, I can cast myself as the lead. And if I make an X-Files parody musical, I can play Dana Scully, which I think we all want to be Dana Scully a little bit, or Fox Mulder. Yeah. So this was a big dream wish fulfillment thing, and then it ended up becoming serious, and I wrote the script over a couple months last summer, and then I contacted a friend of mine who I'd worked with before, Matthew Pollack, who's a music director, and I was like, would you want to do an X-Files parody musical with me? And he immediately was like, yes. I got an old teacher of mine from Second City to come on board as the director, and then about a year after all that started happening, we put the show up at the Annoyance Theater downtown, and they gave us an 8-week run. We just had our 7th show on Thursday, and they just contacted me about extending the run. I don't know if we're immediately going to jump into that or if it'll be in a couple months, but I'm very, very excited about that. Yeah.
So I was just wondering about your approach to playing Scully then. So I guess we should say for people who are, unfamiliar with the play, maybe are trying to visualize it. So it's not a dead-on impersonation of Gillian Anderson, but how did you tackle that?
Because I don't want people to watch it and be looking for deadpan impressions, especially because a lot of the actors in the show have seen very little of the X-Files. Right. So I was watch these YouTube videos, watch this episode that's specifically about the cigarette smoking man or Alex Krycek, and pick up a mannerism or two, but let yourself inhabit these characters, because we're not doing an episode, we're doing a parody. So that was what I did. So I a couple eyebrow raises, or an eye roll, cross my arms, Mulder. But definitely letting people know it's always a cartoon version of Scully, which was my goal going into it. And I think ultimately what all the actors ended up doing is almost cartoonish versions of these characters, and that was also my goal with. I made all the props, so I Want to Believe poster in the show doesn't look very good because it's not meant to. It's meant to look like a cartoon. Same with the poster of Janet Reno and our big autopsy table. The dead body has X's for eyes, his tongue sticking out. This is a very silly show. My brand of comedy. Whenever I want people see my shows, my goal is that they laugh, slap their knee, and then out loud say, "It's so stupid." That's my goal with my comedy, and I think I achieved it with X-Files.
Yeah. Well, what I really liked was kind of like you mentioned about making all the props and everything, but when things didn't seem to go to plan the other night, you all just rolled with it, and it actually added to it, it seemed like to me. I don't know if it felt that way up on stage. So your wig came off, didn't it? And there was a thing with a gun, and...
This is a prop-heavy show, and many of the people in this show come from sketch and improv backgrounds, which often don't have very many props. So we're not the most skilled prop users. In fact, that was not the first time I've forgotten to bring my prop gun on stage, and Alex Krychek, Wesley Whitaker, has had to improvise and roll with the punches. That was the first time I lost the wig, but it's live theater, and that's part of the appeal of it. Is like, and it's sort of like an evil hope. Like something might go wrong. How will they deal with it? And luckily, because we do come from improv backgrounds, we all just, like, I think I made a joke, like, I know you always wondered if the drapes matched the curtains, and now, or the what's that phrase? The curtains match the grape, the carpets match the drapes.
Yeah.
I said something along those lines.
Yeah. So maybe you could tell us about. I'm conscious that a lot of people won't be able to get to the Annoyance Theatre, but it's going to be on YouTube, isn't it, soon? Is that the plan?
Mm-hmm.
So how long will people have to wait to see that? And also, how can people find you online?
Yeah. You guys can find, like, my personal Instagram is em_Hyatt, like the hotel. I don't own the hotel. People ask me that all the time, and I'm like, no. Would I be a comedian and a server in the city of Chicago if I owned a multi-billion-dollar hotel chain? But that's me, and then you can find I Wanna Believe ! An X-Files parody musical on pretty much all platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we are now on YouTube. I've made a channel, there's no videos posted yet, but we're gonna have like a little promo little ad video made in a couple weeks, but I'm actually gonna have the full show. It's supposed to be edited. Because we had 2 cameras, so he's been editing it, my camera guy, and it should be up hopefully maybe even this weekend.
Okay, great. Okay, and obviously we're here at X-Fest, so what are you most looking forward to while you're here? Did you say you're having breakfast with Annabeth Gish, is that right?
I'm having breakfast with Annabeth Gish. I'm very excited. If there is one good thing about season 9, it's Monica Reyes's beautiful optimism and delightful cinnamon roll qualities. My favorite episode of season 9 is the Brady Bunch episode, and that's just such a Monica Reyes highlight.
Yeah.
She's delightful. I'm very excited.
Yeah. All right, well, big thanks from us for stopping by today. We'll leave you to it, but yeah, thanks, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hi guys, this is Carl here, and Marlene Stemme is with me. Hi, Marlene.
Hi, Carl.
And we are stood in the X-Files, in a room at X-Fest full of props from the X-Files. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm stood with Kelly, who's a big part of this. So, hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Really good, thank you. So, can you just tell me about the effort required to get all this stuff in one location? How hard has it been?
To get it here has been the first time I left this room in the last 24 hours was when we opened the doors, when we were all done. I've literally been in here nonstop setting this up, and it took a whole day to load the truck, so it's been 36 hours of work to present this to you guys.
And how does it feel? Does it feel, have you got a real sense of accomplishment from all this?
Absolutely, and it seems to be a big success, so worth my while.
What are your thoughts, Marlene?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I've just come into the room for the first time to kind of see everything, and it looks like it's just there's memorabilia from across the whole series. It's not just like one era or the other. It's all spaced out, and so you can kind of really see everything as if you were in a very fun museum. Where did you originate? Where did you come from with your travel from?
Where are we located?
Yes.
Upstate New York. It's an itty-bitty town called Porter Corners that no one's ever heard of. They may have heard of Saratoga Springs, which is the closest town that people might have heard. It's famous for horse racing, so just outside of Saratoga Springs.
So what's the sort of genesis of the collection, and how long has it been going, and any particular highlights along the way?
Well, Jim started collecting right after the premiere episode, so 25 years he's been collecting. He started with commercial items like everybody does, and then the love grew, and we got together, and now it's all screen use props and wardrobe and production items I love that we have the cam light and stuff like that. We have actual lighting from the sets and stuff like that.
And the main man has joined us, so hi Jim. Jim Thornton's here. Great to see you.
Great seeing you.
So we just talked about the effort required to get all this here, and I suppose I'm wondering if there are any particular items here that are especially significant to you, that are kind of above the others, or not.
There is. It changes all the time.
Yeah.
You know, stuff from the original run is the real hardest stuff to get. You know, one of my favorites is like the bobber hat over there.
Yeah.
That's a favorite because you know I like the episode that much. You know.
Yeah.
I like some of the freakish stuff, like, you know, the babies, the severed arms and stuff. You know, that stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Cool. So yeah, Sarah from the podcast was absolutely delighted to see the Quagmire hat, I must say. So I guess for you guys, seeing people react and being bowled over must be a lot of fun as well too.
Yeah, it makes it all worthwhile, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of stress, a lot of aggravation to do this, you know, to put on a really good show for everybody. But seeing people come through and everything, and they're just blown away.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile.
Okay.
And it's a show in itself, I think, in this room, too. I mean, it's part of the whole X-Fest, but you could just be in here and spend time and see so much of the history and memories from the show that in itself is worth being here.
Yeah, and there's some stuff here so there's some conceptual plans for like an X-Files museum. Was it a theme park? And what's this?
Amusement park.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be for like over in another country and stuff, you know, but it never materialized. You know, it was different studios, and each one was going to have like Fox, and then you had, you know, Warner Brothers, their own park, you know, but it never materialized.
Yeah. So Kelly kind of alluded to this, Jim, I think, that, you know, you were there from the pilot episode collecting, and it's kind of, I guess, the obsession has grown over time. X-Files all the time in your life, is that right?
Yeah, I was the pilot episode, you know, my boys were little, you know, and the show came on, and I was like, wow, it reminded me of Kolchak, the Night Stalker, you know, I adore that show, and I stayed home and watched it, and I had my two boys, and I was like, wow, this is really great, and I just watched more and more, and then it was like, that's it, I was done, you know, and I started wanting to start owning stuff, you know.
Cool. So Marlene, I guess we're going to head to the Mark Snow panel in a moment, but was there anything else we should ask Kelly and Jim before we go?
What do you see in the future in terms of the collection? I mean, do you want to just kind of grow it as much as possible and get the meaningful items, or do you think there's a point when you'll have a whole like set that is the end, or what do you think?
There's not going to be no end. There won't be no end. Never
and how
is.
Do you make selections? I guess that's the other part of that. How do you make the selections of the items going along with what your future plans are?
It changes all the time, you know. It changes, you know. It's like everybody asks, "What's your favorite?" It changes, you know.
Cool. So for the people who are not fortunate enough to be at X-Fest, how can they find you online just to get a look at the pictures and so on?
You can go on Twitter, the X-File Preservation Collection, Facebook, X-File Preservation Collection, Jim's X-File Collection, and it's all there.
So thanks for joining us here in Schaumburg, Illinois at X-Fest. I can't believe, I don't want it to be over. I don't know about you guys. No, not ready.
Not yet.
But it is what it is, and here we are. So until next time, everybody, trust no one.
The X-Cast, an X-Files podcast, is produced and presented by Tony Black, alongside a dedicated group of podcasters and X-Files fans. You can find us on Twitter at The X-Cast, and on Facebook if you type in The X-Cast, or at our group, X-Files Basement, an X-Cast podcast fan group, where you can continue the discussion about all things Mulder and Scully. If you want to support The X-Cast further, you can now subscribe and become a patron of the show on Patreon. On Google, just type patreon.com/The X-Cast. That's Patreon. You'll see all of our tiers, subscription options and perks, which include early access to episodes, bonus content such as commentaries on X-Files episodes, access to a patron chat zone, and even appearing on one of our patron roundtable discussions. We would appreciate any support you can give the show, so just go to patreon.com/The X-Cast to find out more. Our title music is provided courtesy of Will A, who you can find on Twitter at IamWillAY. E.